Mr. Speaker, can you imagine for a minute if you had an emergency, a medical emergency at your house, and you had to mail a form to the ambulance service to have them come address the heart attack victim or other type of medical emergency that's occurring at your house? How irrational is that? Obviously, it doesn't make sense to do something like that, to mail for something that may be an emergency. Mr. Speaker, can you imagine, even in today's time with the strict demands we have for customer service, if we actually had to truly mail order forms to different online companies to have them deliver something, to retail outlets, to have them deliver something, a product to our house? There would be no tolerance for that. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the government right now, the government today, our own United States government, which is here to serve our own Americans, only has a customer service rating of about 70%. In fact, it's less than 70%. Well, that might have been a high water mark in my grades in school, maybe. Mr. Speaker, that is absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely an unacceptable level. This is our government. These are our taxpayers. Why is it that private industry has been able to use technology to provide better customer service, to provide faster services? It's because they care about their customers, they care about their business, and there's an incentive for them to do so. They don't have a monopoly like the federal government does for many of the services that it offers, but that does not excuse the federal government from providing better services. So, Mr. Speaker, I had an opportunity to work very closely with Congressman Joe Kennedy to help develop this legislation, and this is a solution to help bring the United States government into the 21st century, or perhaps the 20th century. It simply does the same thing that private companies have figured out how to do for decades now, where we can access our banks online, we can access our insurance online, we can go online to buy groceries and virtually any other good or service that we need. We can even file our own taxes with the federal government, yet the Privacy Act of 1974, as it's implemented today, requires, in order for us to provide services to our constituents, which may be an emergency situation, they have to print out a form and mail it in that then we then have to take and mail it to an agency. That is ridiculous in 2018, and it's unacceptable. So this legislation, bipartisan legislation, addresses that. It allows for people to access their own government, access government services to address important things, like perhaps accessing their VA benefits, like perhaps fixing a wrong the IRS has caused, like perhaps dislodging a permit or some other type of service the government's supposed to provide and has been sitting on, in some cases, as we've dealt with for years. Mr. Speaker, I want to tell you a quick story. In 2016, in August of that year, in my hometown of Baton Rouge in South Louisiana, we experienced a 1,000-year flood. And people were calling us by the hundreds per day, calling and saying, I need help with FEMA, with SBA, and other government services. And so we say, yeah, you bet. All you need to do is go to our website and print out this form and then mail it to us. And, Mr. Speaker, I can't say on the House floor some of the responses our office received whenever they were telling us about the 4 feet of water that their computers and printers and other equipment was under. And it was a real aha moment. How ridiculous is it that we sit here and act like we're 80 years ago as a government? We can do better. And so this simply brings us to current technology to allow constituents to reach out to our offices when we're addressing urgent issues like passport issues for folks stuck in other countries, like Department of Defense issues where our own military men and women may be having problems in other countries, where our own citizens aren't getting the benefits that they paid for or they earned. It gives us the ability to quickly step in and address their issues, to intervene on their behalf and get these issues resolved. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank especially my friend Joe Kennedy for working with us so closely on this bipartisan legislation. Congresswoman Mimi Walters, Congressman Gene Green, Congressman Will Hurd, and Kevin McCarthy through the Innovation Initiative, Congressman Mark Meadows, Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, Congresswoman Barbara Comstock, and many others provided input to us, helped us perfect this legislation and get here today. I want to thank the bipartisan co-sponsors and folks that helped us on this. I urge adoption and yield back.